Hello beautiful people, welcome to your practical application of astrology. This is completely unplanned. I don't have anything ready what I'm going to talk about. It's all going to be coming out authentically as it hits me. I was meant to have a client at this present moment of time, but client didn't turn up. So Spirit just cleared my schedule as it normally is when things are meant to happen their own way. A moon is transiting through the sign of Virgo today as I'm recording this. I'm probably going to publish this tomorrow, by which point moon will no longer be in Virgo. It will be in the sign of Libra. However, here we are, moon in the sign of Virgo, transiting through the final decan, which is the Taurus decan, all about creation of a new foundation. Moon is conjuncting the south node, so bringing things into practical application, so why not? And as you can see, I'm in Slovakia. As you can tell, I'm coming out of cold because after I arrived last week on Thursday night, it was a beautiful weather on Friday. I was so excited, like, hey, I brought the good weather with me from Mexico, but it didn't last, and it's been very cold since Saturday. So yeah, my immune system is struggling a bit with all these time zones and different cultures, different energies, and all the rest of it, and also coming back as a completely different version of myself that I was when I left back in November 2024, just as Mars and Pluto were having their first opposition. And now we already had the final third opposition, so a lot of things happen in between the past 6 months. And also, as we know, all the planets are now back in the signs they were prior to the retrogrades. Mars is back in the sign of Leo, Venus is back in the sign of Aries, Mercury is transiting through the sign of Aries, soon to be moving into Taurus. And and everybody apart from Venus are out of their shadows. Venus is in her shadow until 16th of May, which is right before the Sun-Uranus conjunction and right before Saturn will move into the sign of Aries. So we have a lot of planetary shifts and changes, as I was talking about in my one of the first videos that I published this year, potentially my last practical application of astrology. These first 3 months of this year were all about inner work, all about shadow work. Then we had the eclipse seasons from mid to late March, which was very transformative period of my life. I've done a lot of ceremonies. I experienced 4 different medicines, which opened a whole new dimensions for me, and brought through a lot of insights as well. But I'm not, I don't feel I'm going to talk about that as much in this video. In this video, I want to more focus on the present moment. And and then April hit us, and then we started coming out of the haze of the eclipses. And as I mentioned, everything was still, well, maybe I didn't mention, things were still retrograde. Now things are direct, apart from Pluto. Pluto just stationed retrograde last weekend. But when Pluto goes retrograde, that accelerates our evolution, because everything that we've been experiencing with the personal planets going retrograde and now integrating that, now it's going to be amplified and has to be integrated into our life, right? So with Mars, that we had retrograde from Leo to Cancer back to Leo, which was all about us rediscovering ourselves anew. Like really, the arrow was pointing inwards and saying, is this really who you are? Is this really the role you want to play? Is this really your authentic expression? Is this really something that gives you a sense of joy and fulfillment and sense of purpose and destiny? And with the Mercury Venus going from Aries to Pisces back to Aries now, which is all about this new inspiration with regards to how we connecting with reality, how we communicating, how we are identifying what we perceiving. Also with Venus, our values, needs, relational dynamics, like what really holds a value and stuff, and also our relationship to ourselves. So all of this was going through transformation in the past few months, and now all of this is being put into practice. Like, okay, all these planets are going direct now, apart from Venus, everybody out of their shadow. So we are treading new territories over here. And as I mentioned, Saturn is preparing for his first ingress into the sign of Aries after like 29 years. So these are huge shifts. These are huge changes that we are experiencing on a collective level and on a personal level, because we have these personal planets that are playing games with these interpersonal and transpersonal planets, because all of these personal planets that were retrograde were making triple aspects to these impersonal and transpersonal planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and also Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So we had all these different interactions, and that definitely was showing up in some way in everybody's life. I mean, nobody's excused, like we are all feeling these energies, how we using them, and how they are manifesting in our reality, that is obviously each person's choice based on, you know, what they're willing to do with the energy, you know, how much work they're willing to put into, whether they're willing to let the old go, make space for the new to come in. And this is something that I've been personally experiencing a lot in the past, especially 3.5 months since my soulmate arrived in Mexico to join me, and all the work we've done together between the two of us, all the things that were brought to the surface for both of us through the relational dynamic, and everything that we experienced together, and everything that was able to be transmuted, transcended, and co-created together in the union. And now being apart, coming back to Slovakia on my own. I'm only here for a short while. I came here predominantly because of my citizenship, which actually I got back on 5/5 portal, which is very it was very unexpected, because I only applied for it, as if you guys following me, you may remember, before I left for Mexico in the middle of October, I applied for it, and there was a potentiality that it might have taken 24 months for me to even hear back from them. And actually I got it back. I got the email saying that it was granted back to me the day before Jupiter station direct. It was literally on February 3rd, and and I could have got it back in February, but I was back in Mexico, and no way ready to come back to Slovakia in February, no way. So anyway, so it was all waiting for me here, so that was like one of the main reasons why I came back. So I do have my citizenship back, waiting to apply for my passport. So it's interesting how with all this shedding of the all layers of identities and making space for the new, some of the old is coming with. And obviously this old, which is my former nationality, former citizenship, the origin of my incarnation in this lifetime, is meant to come with. So it's interesting how when everything is going forward, certain things we have to go back to retrieve, to take with us, because they actually play a role. And yeah, however this is gonna show up in my life going forward and work out, who knows. But so anyway, so coming back here, and then this being my intermediate between where I was and where I'm going, which is Bulgaria, as before in the past 2 years. And what I really wanted to focus on, especially because we're playing with this energy of post-retrograde planets, mostly out of shadow, but Pluto retrograde now, is how we are experiencing the same things in a very different way. So this is something that I've been initially struggling with, because when I first came from Mexico, and after everything I've experienced there, and especially something that I didn't even know that I wanted a year ago, but then somehow I become aware of these new desires, especially desire for a union, desire for a relationship, and then suddenly started manifest, and it started showing up on my doorstep in a physical form, and then having the opportunity to actually experience this, like these new relational dynamics, these new relational paradigm of how it might or might not look like going forward, because there will be no one size fits all, because with Aquarius it's all about changing of the pattern, breaking from the old pattern, and creating a unique expression, like whatever it is for you, whatever it is for the next person. There is not one size will fit all. We are moving away from that, from the Piscean age, like everything just being in the same melee, and once is what is good for me is good for everyone, like not necessarily. And this is actually how we are serving the spirit, because once again, as I said before in multiple different videos, why would there be 8 billion of us if we were all meant to be copy-paste of each other? It wouldn't make sense, right? The universe doesn't waste time like that. So anyway, going back to this experiencing of my former experiences in a new way. So coming back to Slovakia, I mean, again, if you've been listening to my videos for some time, I left Slovakia when I was 19 years old. So more than half of my life ago, I just hit my 40th in a previous weekend. So so more than half of my life ago now, and ever since I've just been going back and forth. So there were many times when I came back to my home country, to my parents' place, and as I've been sharing in the past, especially 2 years, how it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle coming back, every time going away, learning something, transmuting something, healing something. Everything comes in cycles, everything comes in layers. The spirit doesn't just just give you all at once, and you don't clear all at once, you know, like it takes lifetimes to sometimes learn certain patterns or clear certain dynamics. So anyway, so in a previous experiences, yeah, every time it was quite jarring experience, especially coming back from Mexico, which is on my Pluto line, which I already talk about many times, and that's where I do the most transformative work. It is for me going into my cocoon, which was the case for the first 3 months. I did a lot of inner work on myself, with myself, without much of an interaction from external environment or anybody else being in my bubble, until my soulmate arrived at the end of January, just as the sun moved into a sign of Aquarius, which I received the guidance that that was going to be the case, because being Aquarius rising, this is just how it happens for me. But anyway, and yeah, and now coming back after everything that I experienced in the past 3.5 months, it was like coming back like a 2.0, like a 3.0, you know, very different experience, even from the experiences that I had before after my transmutation, because now everything's changed and there is no more time to waste for anybody. This is not just me, this is everyone. Like everyone, I'm sure, that is, you know, very likely at least listening to this video, is feeling this, that the things that are changing this year are different from the changes we experienced previously. That is uncomparable, because now we don't really have time to waste, to go in cycles and these loops forever, you know, like the time is now, the time is up, because with Saturn moving into Aries, especially, Saturn is the form, Saturn is also the chronos, right, is the physical material realm, the matrix. Saturn is moving into Aries, so this is a whole new world we are co-creating here together. And Neptune being in Aries, the meaning has changed, right, you know, the Pisces suddenly became Aries, and they do have the retrogrades later on this year, so we're not fully done with the Pisces. Same for Uranus going into Gemini in July and then back into Taurus before the end of the year. So we're not fully done with the old energies, but we already tapping into the 2026, you know, the Wheel of Fortune year, the 1 and the 0, the Magician and the Fool. So we are already choosing our timelines, we're tapping into timelines. So whatever work each of us is doing on ourselves and in our, you know, proximity, and also clearing these old karma contracts and everything, it has a very different impact now, also because of how the time is speeding up and how the energies are showing up in a different way, and we have much more available to us, many more tools, much more potential. Like the veil is so thin, there is barely any difference between the visible and invisible realm. It's just a matter of tuning in, finding the time to master these skills and tools, and that's why everything is feeling very different. So coming from the same place into the same place will feel very different, because you are a very different version of yourself, even very different from the version that, you know, you were able to upgrade to previously, right? So going back to the core of the message, when I first arrived from Mexico, yeah, obviously the initial, you know, moment of arrival was very exalted, because like, thanks God, after 2 days of travel and free flights and all the all the craziness of the airport, after being in my bubble, you know, like whether alone or with my soulmate for 6 months, you know, with this cocoon of protection, and, you know, like it's all beautiful, and like working with spirit on Pluto line, very easy to connect with shadow work and stuff. And now suddenly there is a whole world out there, and now you have to face it, you know, and there is all this energy that you know, I had to once again be reintroduced to and interact with, which I wasn't interacting with in the past 6 months. So coming back to Slovakia, I was like, oh great, thanks God, you know, finally I arrived, you know, like I'm here. But then even the next day was fine, because it was nice and sunny, and you know, and this is something I really realized, just a side note, just going into rabbit hole here, that when the sun is shining, and I'm sure for people who live in warm countries where there is more sunshine, it is much easier to be positive, it is much easier to be spiritual, it is much easier to, you know, like to be optimistic about life and stuff. But when you come into place where it's just concrete and, you know, block of apartments and just gray and miserable and cold all the time, it is much more challenging. It is not impossible, you know, but it is more challenging. So that's why, like in Mexico, of course, you wake up and there is sunshine and birds, and, you know, and it's beautiful, and the, you know, like the lifestyle and the tempo of living life and what people are focusing on is so different. So it is so much easier, to be optimistic and positive and spiritual and like, oh yeah, like Zen and stuff. Then you hit the real world. Real world, even though that is questionable, what is really real. Like in my case, coming back to Slovakia, place of my origin, and now all the stuff hits you, right? So yeah, so that really dawned on me on Saturday, and because Saturday was exactly past Saturday I'm talking about, was exactly a week after my birthday, which was on Saturday the 26th of April, where I had the most profound weekend and the most profound experience, which I'm not gonna go into here. And it was such a huge contrast, and it like really hit. And for me, how I experienced it, all the old stuff started coming out, all the like victimhood mentality, feeling sorry for myself, like feeling really hopeless and helpless and upset and depressed, because it's like, oh my god, back to this, and then feeling like hard on myself for feeling that way. So like it was like this double whammy, when you notice yourself for like, oh sugar, I'm struggling, I'm going through the old patterns, the old patterns are resurfacing for me to really see them and pay attention to them, and now experience them through this new version of myself, so I can feel really the contrast even more profoundly, and I can see like how far I've gone, because I outgrown this, because this is like now unbearable, just like I was covering in the previous videos, especially the astrological ones, because of the layering we are experiencing through the lunations, how the things that we could just like brush under the carpet and like, okay, that's fine, now we can't do it anymore. It's like because we outgrown this, we as a human collective, we outgrown all of these patterns, like, no, actually this doesn't vibe anymore, I can't live like this anymore. So anyway, so going through that process on Saturday, the Saturn day, right? The Saturn day, which is like, okay, well, you have to take responsibility. You are the only one who can change it, the maturation and stuff. And Saturn is trining my Saturn right now. So anyway, so going through all of this and then beating myself up about it, like, oh, I failed, and like I've made no progress and stuff. And this is something that I warn people to not do. But as I multiple times said, that I'm just like learning myself, just like everyone else. Just because I can bring through messages or tune in or something doesn't mean I mastered all of that. I learn as I go too. So anyway, so it was very helpful to have my soulmate to be able to write to, and him to reflect and mirror it back to me and guide me through the process. And then having the realization that these things have to come out, and this is the thing which again I already covered, that like the way to master our emotion is not to suppress them or to hide away from them, it's not to repress the emotion. It's like the mastering, which I changed the word for mastering, so I even forgot what I was. Regulate, yes, that was the original word which I used, but then I became conscious, because regulation for some people might translate as suppression, like regulate my emotion, okay, so I'm not gonna feel it, but that's not what it is, like, so I changed the word for mastery, like mastering our emotion. But it doesn't mean to suppress them, it doesn't mean to run away from them, because them emotions are messengers. And as I experienced through the medicine that I had experience with in my stay in Mexico, especially throughout the eclipse season, these emotions, they are energies from the past, right? So there's emotions, energy in motions, and they are the energies that are stuck in past. So you, I, all of us, we are the next one in line of our ancestor line, which obviously is everybody is joined by the ancestry, because all our ancestors were connected by the time and space, right? They all exist at certain period of time on the planet Earth, so we are all connected, because the level of consciousness, or the collective consciousness, better said, the collective consciousness of that place and time was shared amongst them, right? So anyway, so we are all connected. So this is where it comes into the oneness, like we are all one, but not like, oh yeah, we are all copy paste and let's sacrifice our authentic expression. No, but we are all connected through time and space, right? So you, I, all of us being alive right here, right now, we are the next one in line to represent the humanity, to represent, okay, this is where you came from, your bloodline, your, whatever, culture, religion, doesn't matter, because we all been everything anyway, we just all switching roles to have the experience. And experience it differently, contribute in a different way through our own unique soul signature. So anyway, like without getting too lost in a rabbit hole, where am I getting with this spirit? So yeah, so this energy lost in the time and space, right? The energy in motion. So this is also something I was explaining yesterday through the reading to my client. Again, going into rabbit hole. Let's just, like bookmark this so I can come back to it. So this is something that, again, a lot of people misunderstand. Maybe I misunderstand. I'm not saying I'm right with my understanding now with karma. People thinking that, if somebody is having a hard life and somebody is experiencing difficulties, they must have done something bad in their past life. They have to make up for it. They have to atone for it. They have to balance the karma wheel, whatever. Not always strictly truth, not necessarily. It doesn't mean just because some person is, down on their luck in this lifetime that they were some awful person last lifetime and they've done all these bad things and now, they have to suck it up because this is how they're gonna, buy the brownie points for something bad they did. Sometimes the case, not always the case, because again, we are all connected by time and space, by the collective consciousness, all the rest of it. So the way that I came to understand it in my past few months of different realizations and stuff, and again, I'm not saying this is the truth, I'm saying this is how I understand it now, is that we all have certain specialization as a soul based on where we are at, no better or worse, just like, one person is good at IT, one person is a good singer, one person is good at, it's not better or worse, it's just everybody's different, better at some, like we all can learn everything, but certain people have certain natural gifts, right? So anyway, so it's the same with the soul, right? Every soul has a unique signature. So it's like, yeah, this soul is, more equipped with this, whatever. Doesn't matter, I'm just trying to explain something in human terms, and I'm not sure if I don't think that's really how it works. But all that said, so with this karma, karma is an energy stuck in, karma is like this energy, this emotion that is stuck in time and space that is out of balance, energy, emotion, stuck in place and time, right? So, okay, certain person might have done something. So there is all this energy, all this emotion, maybe sadness, maybe sorrow, maybe anger, maybe fear, maybe hate, whatever it is, So it's all stuck there. Obviously, in collective consciousness, we have plenty of that. And then there are souls and say, okay, well, I've done all of these things. I've gone through all of these things, I am equipped. I can do it. I can have an incarnation where I embody all of this because I have the tools. I've been through a lot of things and I can transmute it. I can do it, right? But it doesn't mean that person did something bad, maybe, so this is the thing, it's not so personal. So anyway, so with this emotion stuck in emotion thing, that's why like all of these things. So I'm going back to present moment and my experience, like experiencing all this like victimhood and sadness and hopelessness and like, oh my god, I just experienced the most blissful time of my life, all my dreams came true, blah blah blah, and now I'm back to this. This is not what I want, this is not it, and then it's all these like feelings, right? But yes, they are mine in this moment in time because of my present experience, but they're not just mine. I'm sure many of my ancestors and many people on this planet, ancestors where the blood related to me is like, my name and stuff, or like ancestors regarding a humanity, a lot of them gone through this stuff, right? That they had these moments when they had either the enlightenment or feeling of love or feeling of connection, whatever it was that they experienced, and they were like, yes, this is it. This is what I want. It reminds me of home. It reminds me of spirit, blah, 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 but here in a physical form, this is what I want. And then, they go back to their life. And then it's like, well, this is not it. And there is all this, but they had to get on with it, especially, a few hundred years ago. They didn't have time, to cry and be depressed and feel sorry for themselves. And the next person saying, oh yeah, I get you, I understand. They had to survive. There was like life to get on with, right? So they had to sweep it under the carpet because otherwise they couldn't make it, or they would like die, or they would kill themselves, or they would get sick, or whatever would happen, accident, doesn't matter, so whichever way it worked out for that soul. So all of these emotions got transferred, they all got transferred. And now because of where we are at as a humanity, a lot of these things are not in alignment with where we're going. This Aquarian age, breaking free from the old pattern, like moving past the Pisces age, which we understand the totality of, especially with this Saturn nearing the 29 degrees of Pisces, Neptune already passing it 3 times, so we understand, like, okay, well, I don't want to live life like this, sacrifice and martyrdom and feeling helpless. Because why? Because we're becoming more and more aware of who we really are, especially now Mars post-retrograde, Cancer now back in Leo, the sign of creation, the sign of child, reconnection to the inner child, heart consciousness, the Leo archetype, the 33, the, Christ consciousness in Christian terms, it doesn't matter, terminology is irrelevant. It's this experiencing life through this lens of a child, the innocence, the joy, the limitless potential and possibilities. You speak to the kid, they don't know any bloody like restrictions. Like, what you mean I can't have it? What you mean it's expensive? What you mean that's not possible? What you mean it is possible? Everything is possible for a kid, especially if they're really little, right? So it's like that, because who are we really? We are all extension of the source. We all came from the same place, we all return to the same place, we are all unique, and we all came here to express this potential in a unique way, use the potential in a unique way, right? Like play with the energy in a unique way. You give 2 kids piece of paper, they're gonna choose different color of crayon and they're gonna paint different thing, right? Because they're all unique, right? Same thing. So anyway, so it's like that with this Aquarius. It's all about breaking free from the pattern. How? By reconnecting to that authentic expression of the child, that didn't know any restriction. Leo Capricorn, there is in conjunction, right? So it's like this Leo goes like, well, I can't see no boundaries, I can't see no restriction. What do you mean? Blind spot. So anyway, excuse me. So yeah, so going back to this emotion and stuff, these things that are coming up, and we don't feel good about feeling, like this sadness, sorrow, depression, hopelessness, helplessness. And it feels so jarring now, much more than ever before. Before it was like, yeah, I feel depressed, whatever, it's normal, right? Now it's not normal. And I mean, it has normalized, in the 6 society, it's been normalized, but it is not normal. We as a divine beings, as a extension of source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, in a physical form, which is a gift and a miracle at the same time. We didn't come here to suffer. I mean, we've done enough suffering for these past few thousand years, of forgetting of who we really are. Now we're remembering, because the veil is thinning. The veil is really thin, especially with the North Node in Pisces. We all going back to connection to the spirit, to the source, right? And anyway, so these things they have to run through our system. That is the bottom line. We have to go through this. They have to be expressed, they have to be purged out. It's like when you have a blister, or when you have this pus, like infection, and you have a pus, it has to come out. I mean, it has to come out for the wound to heal, or it can be absorbed, and whatever, the immune system can sometimes deal with it and stuff, but sometimes it just has to come out, right? So it's like that, it needs to come out, otherwise it will fester. So now, just like I've experienced coming back from Mexico after being blissed out, and coming back to this contrast, and nothing changed. That's the thing, nothing changed. My parents played the role that I gave them, that we agreed to as a souls, they played so well, they are the keepers of the past, they are the keepers of the tradition, and that's the role they came here to play. Very likely who knows? They will not change the role they play in. They might just stay playing the same role. Maybe they will, who knows? That's their free will's choice. My dad is a master number frequency 33, which I didn't realize until recently. I literally realized that while I was in Mexico. My dad is a master number frequency 33 life path. So I'm like, everything that I've gone through with my dad, my greatest teacher, with Sagittarius rising, Jupiter first house. I'm Aquarius rising with Jupiter, with Jupiter in the first house, So my dad, by embodying the complete ignorance, the complete ignorance of humans, like being so ignorant and like so perfectly well playing the role, perfectly well playing the role. He offered the contrast for me to go to look for my Jupiter first house in Aquarius. Like, hey, listen, this is not working for me. I cannot live my life like this. So that's what I mean. My parents are the greatest teachers, Like, they prepared me for life. They prepared me for life before I was like feeling so bad about it, because I was like, oh my god, like the childhood I had, like what the hell. And even yesterday was so funny. My brother came around and he was recalling the stories from our childhood, which I have no memory of. Like, literally, like I have very little memory of my early years of my life. And now, even more, like now coming back from Mexico, I feel like a complete imposter, not even remembering where my things are, like feeling like completely being reborn. But anyway, so yeah, so my brother yesterday talking about these stories from our childhood, describing my parents as complete psychopaths. Complete psychopaths, the way they were with me. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially if you are my generation and brought up in Eastern Europe or older, like many of our parents were acting like psychopaths, very violent and, all the rest of it. But that was the time it was, and that was a perfectly normal behavior for that time. It was perfectly acceptable, and that's what people thought was, normal, right? These things change. So anyway, and now understanding that, well, would they be any other way, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't become who I am. I wouldn't be drawn to things that I was drawn to. So yeah, so this is also something which, again, I already spoke about in a different occasion, about the shadow players, how we judge these people that play this very, from our human perspective and polarization perspective, very negative role for the humanity. The people, like very like so-called bad people, that do really horrendous things, crimes on humanity and stuff. But from the spiritual perspective, it's like, what masterful soul that must be to go so far away from like light, so far away from who they really are, being the God, the universe, the extension of the source. And it's 11:11. Funny that, like what a masterful soul that must be to take on that role. Because, also another thing, it's just so many breadcrumbs, since I've been with my family, like my dad watching some, TV series or whatever. And he's like, oh, I would kill that person, like, oh, look at what they've done and something. And I would go and find that actor and I would beat him up because he must be like that person that he plays. And I'm like, but that's what we all doing. We all doing exactly that as a soul. We put on this costume, this avatar, and we play this role and we play them so well, So, coming back to my parents, my family, and being here, and this is something that, again, I know I'm jumping here and probably not talking even in a sequence. But I remember last year when I was here and I had a terrible headache and I was so sick, and I came to Mexico, and a good friend of mine, she said like, well, it's all this, she said, is the resentment and the non-acceptance that I held towards my parents, and like feeling like entitled in a sense, and like they owe me, and because they're not who I want them to be, which already I covered this when I was in Mexico, this topic of my parents, and how I had realization, and then like I said, everything comes in cycles and layers. Now another layer of that understanding. So yeah, so I remember her saying that I was sick because my body was like reacting, to me being in so much resistance, and so much like anger, feeling so much anger towards my parents, toward my family, towards who they are and the role they play. And even though I had the rational understanding of like, okay, well, I gave them this role to play, but I was still like holding it against them, right? So that's why I felt sick. And that's why when I came back now and I felt sick, like within 48 hours, straight away almost, I remembered that. So I was like, okay, so what am I resisting? What am I resisting? And I realized I'm resisting the present moment, that which is right now, right? Because I don't want to be here, and I want to be with my partner. I don't want to be here. I don't want to, like have all my things, all these things that I don't want, like being in resistance with my present reality. And again, another layer of my rabbit hole, the video popped up for me where there was a message that if you are, if you want to have a happy life, if you want to enjoy your life, then you need to accept every moment, present moment of your life. Because if you're resisting what is right now, if you're resisting your present moment, you're resisting your life. And if you resist in your present moment and you're resisting your life, you cannot be happy. So the key to, I'm probably butchering this message, but this is how I understood the message. The key to happy life is to be at peace with every present moment, because it is a part of your life. And if you resist in any aspect of it, then you resist in your life, because everything is cyclical. Once again, it's all the ebbs and flows. Nothing lasts forever. Not the good, not the bad, not the everything is always changing, right? So again, going back to my parents and me falling sick again, I recognize that, okay, I'm resisting again. I'm resisting again. I'm in resistance with my life. I'm resisting with what is. Obviously, it doesn't feel good, because my soul now, outgrown this, this way of behavior, this way of perceiving reality. My soul is fine with this. Why am I still resisting it? It's only temporary anyway. Whether this moment, whether this life, everything is temporary, right? But the soul is the eternal. So anyway, so that's where I realized that, okay, well, I just have to like, this is part of it. This is part of it. Like, I might not understand it fully right now, but it's a part of it. It's part of the journey. It's another layer of the healing, another layer of the understanding, another layer that contributes to an expansion of my consciousness and expansion of the consciousness of humanity, because this is where we all connected, right? And that's where I started feeling better. Eventually, gradually. I mean, I'm still not 100%, but it's only 3 days later, and already my throat infection, because that's where it all started, my throat infection, like feeling I couldn't express myself, like it started getting better and stuff. So yeah, so this was my understanding, like how really the mind, body and spirit is all connected. When we are resisting what is, which is something that the soul obviously brought into your experience because it's part of your path. So if you're resisting it, you are not online. The ego is not online, is not on board with the higher self, right? So it's resisting, and then the body responds, because the body is connected, to the mind. The body follows. It's just like Dr. JD would say, Joe Dispenza, that the mind doesn't know the difference between what's imagined. Like you imagine some horror scenario, or start feeling feelings about it, that, oh, this is terrible, and then start imagining, start feeling it and stuff, and the body think is real, so it start responding, and everything is always connected. So this is where, going back to the storytelling, and like how my brother was bringing up these stories from the past, which like I said, I had no real memory of, so it's like hearsay for me, like, okay, yeah, you saying that happened, fine, it must have happened, but I don't remember it. So anyway, so I realized, like, but yes, these people, they are not the same people they were back then, because their role they had to play at the time when I was a child, my brother was a child, and the rest of us were children. They had to create the launching pad for us to become who we are now, and now they play in the role for us to become who we are meant to be next. Like, this is how we all working together, that everybody you meet, they walk in a part of your journey, some short term, some long term, some for the rest of your days here, to help you in becoming who you want to become, like but that's why, we outgrow people, we outgrow relationship, the love is never truly gone, but the connection change, because you change, everything change. That's the only constant in life, is the change. So anyway, so I know I'm going through all these different rabbit holes and stuff, and maybe it all doesn't even make sense, but this is all part of this, what we experience in astrologically wise. Pluto in retrograde now in the sign of Aquarius, we get in these new realizations with regards to what started coming through for us since March 2023, once again connected to the eclipses in Aries, Libra, this new direction, new way of interacting with reality. Libra is not just your husband, there's the traditional astrology, which was very limited based on the level of consciousness in which it was used as a tool. It is still useful, but we need to understand what to use it for, So with regards to the bigger picture, is very limited, because it only looks at the boxes, it's very small definitions, right? It's not bad, but it's just, it needs to be used for the things it needs to be used, right? It is not really helpful with regards to evolution. So anyway, so Libra, it is your external reality, you as a soul, as an Aries, the Fool that comes into the physical form, the Fool, the sparkle, the fire of creation, the spiritual fire of creation becomes Taurus. It gets a body, it becomes embodied, and then it goes on its journey, all the other archetypes and everything that's connected to it. Anyway, the Libra, is your life, it's everything you interact with, it's the people, the circumstances, the job, it's everything you interact with, it's everything that has a form, but you don't see it that way, and also through the relational dynamics we create in new form, we get this new inspiration to put into form, right? The Libra to Aries, and then Taurus, and the cycles, everything is always connected. So from the eclipses that started in Aries in April 2023, at which time Pluto was in Aquarius for the first time in our life, seems like what, 18th century or something, so anyway, all these things started coming into our consciousness, into our realizations, right? And now we had all these things happen since, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and the conjunctions with the North Node, and there's so many things, million things happened since then, and now the nodes are in Pisces, Virgo, with the Virgo being ruled by Mercury being the ruler of Jupiter at the moment, Jupiter being the traditional ruler of the North Node, Neptune now being in Aries, ruled by Mars now being in the sign of Leo, ruled by the Sun is transiting through the sign of Taurus. We just had a new moon in Taurus. We created a foundation which is based on this new language, new way of interacting with reality, new relational dynamics, new everything, but it does not yet exist yet, because like this is like Mars is in fire sign, and we have a lot of fire sign, which is saying like, well, there's all this potential, unlimited potential of universe that can be manifest. But you decide what you want to manifest, because Jupiter, the storyteller, the one that precedes Capricorn, is in Gemini, right? and Mercury is still in Aries. So you decide what you want, So now we are building up towards this full moon in Scorpio, and I'm gonna, close with that because I could go forever. There are so many things to talk about that I, haven't talked about for the past 4 months. So many things. So anyway, now building up towards this full moon in Scorpio, including myself, we becoming very aware, okay, where is still this sense of disempowerment, where like maybe my ego self, my mind, didn't catch up with my higher self, because, my higher self is already somewhere else, it's always been somewhere a little bit of a game, that's why it guides you, it leads you through your intuition, because it knows the bigger picture, it knows where you're going, like obviously there is a free will and everything is always changing, but it's got an idea. So anyway, so now with this build up towards a full moon in Scorpio, with these other things, everything that's going on, there's nothing particular going on today when I'm recording this, but like yesterday, what did we have? We had something going on yesterday. I already forgot what, so anyway, so there was something going on yesterday. Venus last, the final sextile to Pluto. Yes. Venus final sextile to Pluto, and something else was going on. But anyway, so with all of these things that's going on, technically what's going on for us in our experience is that we're becoming very aware of what we are grown, and we becoming aware of that by what is still making me feel stuck and disempowered and afraid. And like in a sense, what are we afraid of? A lot of us are afraid of like failure. What if I get it wrong? But Mercury is in Aries, it's saying, well, but if you never try nothing new, you will never go anywhere, because Aries is the first sign, right? So this is the Chiron also. Oh yeah, it was the Mercury Chiron conjunction. Thank you, Spirit. Perfect. Yes, it was the Chiron conjunction. Of course it was. Exactly. Because if we never go, then we will never proceed, right? Chiron is the key to Uranus, from Saturn to Uranus. What was, because that's your life, is the manifested form, but is the result of the past, right? So now and also like, yeah, Spirit is giving me so many things, because before Capricorn is a Jupiter is in Gemini is ruled by Mercury is the south node. We know where we've been, but where do you want to go from here? So with this full moon coming up to full moon in Scorpio, we, including myself, in my past few days of experiencing of like, oh, I feel stuck, I feel disempowered, I don't want this, I want something else, how can I have something else, how can I manage, blah 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 blah, all the rest of it. And in the same time, my body is coming down, because it's like, come on, not this again, you already outgrown this, like, hello, you can do better. But not judgment. So this is how we know, like, what doesn't feel good in your life anymore, because you outgrown it. And now you're realizing like where you are grown in, and maybe where you resisting. Why are we resisting? Because this is the familiar. Why do I come back here? Because it's familiar, like, oh yeah, my parents will take care of my things, so I don't have to pay for storage somewhere, whatever. But yeah, but if you want to become the new person, if I want to become the new person, if I want the people in my life to see me differently and treat me differently, then it's up to me, right? So that's what I mean. So anyway, like, again, I feel like even my verbiage, even though I'm speaking so fast, is not catching up with all the things I want to say. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. But it's been just so profound, and the realization and understanding that, okay, yes, if you need to feel all these feelings, all these dense emotions, again, once, twice, 3 times, how many times you need to feel them, do it, because they need to come through, they need to run through, to be spent. And in order for the new energy to then come in, to make space for the new, the old has to come out so the new can come in, because a lot of the old and the new are incompatible. The Pisces and the Aquarius, like, right, they're next to each other, but I mean, like, they don't have much in common, but it's all part of the journey. It's all part of it's part of the layering. It's part of the path. So yeah, so being here and now being in between, in between Mexico and Bulgaria, in between what was and what it has the potential to manifest, we are right here, right now, and we have to be happy and content and grateful for whatever the hell the right here, right now is, because otherwise we can't go any further, because otherwise what we resist persists. We will just create more of the same dynamic. And yes, and I had a dream and I got woken up from the dream, and that's what I received in my dream. That's what the spirit, what my guides, whoever was telling me, that I will keep re-experiencing the same dynamics over and over and over and over again, until I will learn to transcend them, without then like feeling that these dynamics are making my reality, that they are, I'm a victim of these dynamics, whatever they are. Is it the weather? Is it the country? Is it the government? Who is it? So I will keep re-experiencing the patterns over and over again, until I realize that, well, but I'm in charge, I'm the creator. You are the creator of your reality. You are the creator of your life, of your universe. And this is the year of the hermit, the year of mastering that, the year of Virgo, the learning and adjusting, the putting it into practice, the Virgo, the hero's journey, the human's journey, the embodiment of the spirit. The role we came here to play. We didn't come here to be perfect, and we didn't come here to be done ever. We also didn't come here to wait, like, oh yeah, let me wait for this to be perfect, then I come out. That doesn't work like that, because the world will, at least for now, will always represent polarities, because we need the contrast to know what we desire. So this is all this unfolding, unfolding of the universe, unfolding of ourselves, unfolding of the journey, and is ever changing, ever expanding, and there is no end to it. So don't get lost in details that, oh my God, once it's perfect, and when I get here I'll be happy, because you never be done. So just enjoy. So yeah, but if you can't enjoy the present moment, then where are we going from here? Because it's your present that is creating your future. So this is all these things that I've been learning to embody because I know all these things, but knowing it and embodying different things, that's the thing. Like, it is not enough to know. Like, there is so much information out there. You can Google anything, you can talk to ChatGPT about anything. There is so much information, but to embody it and live it, that's a completely different thing, right? So this is what we're learning with the South Node in Virgo. Virgo is the earth, right? Is the human journey, the hero's journey, the incarnation of the spirit, and the Hermit, year of a Hermit, the year number 9, and Mercury going through Aries, but will soon be moving into the sign of Taurus. We will learn to embody these new realizations, because Mercury in Aries, triple conjunction to Neptune, first time in Aries, the third one was the first time in Aries, same for Venus. Everything is changing. Everything has changed. You are not the same person you were in January. Just like I'm not the same person I was January. We are not the same person we were you're always changing. So anyway, so this is how we go. We just go ahead. We go with time. We go with the flow. And and it's that embodying the feminine, the divine feminine qualities of the trust and surrender and the hope and the faith that, that there is something that we are connected to always, that has our best interest as a part of its best interest, because it's you, right? And it's always guiding you. So that's why the answers, just like I said to my client yesterday with the questions she sent me, I said, I don't have the answers to these questions. You have them. Because if I give you an answer to your questions, that I am going to project my life into yours and create my reality, my reality into your reality. So nobody has the right answers for you, only you. And there is not really a right answer, because everything is right and everything is wrong, like it's just a matter of perception and perspective, right? Some people might say having a child at 18 is a mistake. Some people might say having a child at 18 is the best thing, and who is right, who is wrong? It just depends on where you are, who you are, what is the perception, what is your story, what is your choice, what did you come here to experience? Even something that might have felt like a mistake 18 years ago, now maybe you are in a second part of your life and it feels like, oh my God, I'm so glad it happened because it made me someone completely different. And that's exactly what I needed to become that person. So that's what I mean. There are no mistakes. So yeah, we are all learning, especially with Saturn, soon to be moving into the sign of Aries, to be embody our own authority, our own, become mature creators of our reality, become conscious creators of reality, and take on the responsibility that comes with it. Like, yeah, if I want all of these things, I need to take responsibility for creating it. Because if somebody else creates it for me, just like I can see every time I come to my parents' place, I'm always being treated like a child. But what else do I expect if I come here, eat their food, not pay rent, and have all my stuff here, right? Of course they see me as a child, so that's what I mean. So then we have to kind of just be okay with that. Like in my case, like, yeah, I'll take the benefits, right? I took the benefits, so I have to take the consequences of that. Otherwise, if I want to be treated like an adult and not, have any dependency, like I don't need your help in anything, I can take care of it, then that is my responsibility, right? So anyway, guys, I wanted to pull a few cards and already chatting for 50 minutes, Jesus. So let's see what comes through. Yeah, actually, while I was shuffling the cards, I was using the Sufi deck, which is one of ones that speak to me on occasion very strongly, and this is what came out: the heart of matter. There's a beautiful deck, Sufi from Rassouli. The heart of matter align life's pathways through the heart. So yeah, this is where we are, the Leo, the authenticity, the heart, the joy, right? And at the bottom was open mind. Keep open mind, what it is. This is again the feminine quality, the surrender, trust, faith, hope, open your mind, everything is possible. So yeah, the heart of the matter align. You see, you can see that like an angelic figure, like your higher self and your human self, align life pathway through the heart. What is calling to you? So I'm gonna read this one card, the heart. I'm sure that other one came through before. I've seen it before, but yeah, let's see about this one. The heart of the matter, this one. Heart is the chamber of unity. It holds the essence of oneness and serenity. It's blind to the truth that is concealed within it. Is the clay that embraces both darkness and light. Remove the covering and behold this lovely heart basking in the light of truth. And it came from Attar. In Sufi wisdom, the human heart is a place of divine grace and the sanctuary of God's love. It is the source and center for every image, yet it takes no form of its own. It is the place where duality cannot enter. Everything in the heart is united into one. Its true value is only recognized by love. There is energy in the air like a fragrance that surrounds and shelters your heart with a pure love like you have never known before. If you feel unsatisfied with your life, search within yourself and find out if your spirit and ego are in harmony with one another. Frustration and loneliness are caused by the war going inside you between your heart and the ego. The spirit is interested in taking the ego into its own realm, while the ego wants to do the reverse and break away from your spirit. Dear one, you are embraced by open, nurturing hearts and loving souls, a garden of beauty where you can renew yourself. Pure happiness comes to those whose hearts are polished like a mirror to reflect their excitement and desire to expand. Life is a process of constant creation. Use your heart as a guide in all non-physical choices, good or bad, conscious or unconscious, in pain or in ecstasy. Know that the heart can bring all opposites to union through love. Mantra: I am recalibrating my frequencies to resolve the battle between my rational mind and my heart by letting my mind take care of physical matters and letting my heart bring me into alignment with the true pathways of my life. And it's 11:33, and I just got the guidance to end with this. So I have another decks ready, but I feel this is the message because it technically covers everything I was talking about, jabbering about in the past 53 minutes. So, and it's still 11:33, so I see it as a confirmation. So yeah, so this is it. So this is what we're here to do, to experience this new way of life, which is through the heart consciousness, which is breaking the pattern of the Pisces age, of this sacrifice. And it is through you aligning, each of us aligning between what our ego wants and what our higher self wants, because before it was one or the other, like when we are in a spirit form, it's about the higher self. When we are here, it's the ego self. But how about to live life and both are present, which is this Aquarian age, going beyond. So yeah, and keep your mind open how that's gonna show up. So I'm gonna let the cards at rest for the next time to speak. I feel this was the perfect closing message. And yeah, there was other thoughts in my mind, but they just came out now. So I feel that we are complete for this session. And yeah, with that, I wish you all a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, everyone, and bye for now.